Now, Martin, I don't know if we actually told you. Since you were right. Look, I love that look. Oh, dear Lord.
This cannot be going in a good direction.
Martin, you'll be doing your talk today in your underwear, so if you'll remove your pants right now.
I mean, if that's what y'all want.
No, that's not, actually. That was purely
I got to see a 2/3 vote from the room before I do anything.
Majority vote.
Well, anything along those lines.
That's what my lawyer said I had to say. So, but now we had asked a lot of our speakers that if there was anyone that served as a mentor to you when you were younger, that kind of gave you your start, if you had a small story about them, just something to pass on, that would be great.
So I don't know about a story, but obviously my biggest mentor in InfoSec was probably Mutz. Anyone that doesn't know who Mutz is, he's the original creator of Backtrack, and he runs the offensive security classes. And he taught me pretty much everything I know about anything that has anything to do with computers and security. And he wrote me my first letter. He encouraged me to get a real job. I used to be a sound engineer. And I didn't go to college, and I didn't have any certifications, and I didn't really have anything. So computers were just a hobby for me. And he said I was really smart. I don't know why, and that he encouraged me to get into InfoSec. And he wrote me my first big, couple of page letter of recommendation that got me my first job in InfoSec. So he's definitely been my mentor forever. What about you, Eric?
You should ask. Yeah, my mentor too was also Mutz. I took PWB way back when. I think it was like version 1 or version 2, and I remember I was getting my ass kicked by the lab. I said something in the IRC, and he gave me 2 free weeks with the class, and I popped everything after that. And had he not done that, I don't know if I'd be standing up here today. So, lots of love for OffSec.
All right, cool. So we're here today to talk about some advanced phishing tactics. It's something that me and Eric do on pretty much every pen test. We love to email phish people. So we thought this year we'd talk a little bit about some of our techniques and some of the stuff that we do. Nothing in this talk is new or revolutionary or 0 day or any of that kind of stuff. So if you're holding out for something like that, you can go to lunch. We're just going to talk about some stuff that's still working, and the main thing we like to focus on is why user awareness is not the key to defending against some of this stuff. Here's our obligatory introduction slide. Basically, here's the agenda on what we're going to be talking about. Basically, we're going to talk about phishing. How can we prevent against it, and why the current methods aren't working.
Who here is related to the Prince of...
I'm not there yet. Yeah, so this is me. I'm a security consultant. We work at Accumont Labs. Obviously, we had that big slide there in the beginning. That's so they'll pay for our trip. And so I'm also a Backtrack Linux developer, and I also have a little conference up in Louisville called DerbyCon. And I'm not a CISSP. I just want everyone to know. But if you'll notice, Eric is a CISSP, so you can decide who you want to listen to
I don't
later.
know for how much longer, because I haven't paid dues in like 3 years. I think it's coming to the end. I'm also a senior security consultant with Accumont Labs. Work on some open source stuff. Maybe you guys have heard of EtherCap. Anybody heard of EtherCap? Yeah, we just dropped 0.75, so get yours on GitHub or SourceForge. EasyCRAD is a little script I wrote, and then also SMB Exact, Martin and I recently released. So.
All right, so what is spearfishing? Who here is related to the Prince of Nigeria? I know, come on. I know there's more people related to him. Anyway, so when you get that email in the mail that says you're related to the Prince of Nigeria and you've inherited $5 million and all you got to do is pay $10,000 to get the $5 million, I've never understood how that works exactly, but if you've got that kind of email, that's what's called a phishing email, right? So basically, some dude in Nigeria bought 50 quadrillion email addresses from some hacker dude and sent out this email to every single one. And he might have fished 1 or 2 old ladies with it. Who knows? Apparently, it's still working because they're still doing it. So somebody's getting paid, and it's not me. So the difference between that is and spearfishing is when we talk about spearfishing, we talk about a targeted email attack against a company, a business unit, some type of specific organization. And yes, you can spearfish a single individual, but we don't personally think that that's all that effective. It's really hard to just trick one person. I know there was a guy we won't mention from a security organization we won't mention that got spearfished singularly. But generally, when we do it on a pen test, we're going after an organization or a specific business unit in the organization. Oh, sorry, we never know who's supposed to do what slides. So, anyway, also, spearfishing attacks are not initiated by random hackers. It's usually somebody that wants to attack your company specifically. And why do they want to attack your company? Well, they want whatever you have at the company, and it's generally not money. It's generally what your company uses to do business, to make money. I always like to use the example of Wendy's. If I was to hack into Wendy's, I'd be looking for whatever that secret sauce is they put on that hamburger that makes it so good. And anyway, so spearfishing attacks are usually for financial gain, trade secrets, military information, that kind of thing. So when we spearfish organizations, that's what we're really after. We're not necessarily after domain admin or whatever. Couple of victims of spearfishing attacks recently. Has anybody heard of the White House? I guess they got phished recently. It was pretty big in the news. I'm sure it was probably worse than what was on the news, but whatever. We only got CNN to watch. RSA. Who had to turn in their RSA token last year? Yeah, we did too. Epsilon, little bitty fuel company. There was some really famous ones called the nitro spearfishing attacks that targeted 50 chemical and defense companies, and also Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, a Japanese defense contractor. I mean, there's hundreds more, but I just put some of these up here so you can see that, number one, security organizations are getting phished and it's working, and defense companies are getting phished and it's working. So that means not only are the people that are pen testing your organization getting phished, the people that are protecting your country are getting phished. So that's really all not good.
APT.
That's right. It's APT.
So why do we spearfish? Why do we do this as part of our pen tests? Yeah, I mean, the main thing is you got to know your enemy and you got to know where you stand, right? You want to do the most realistic thing that the attackers are actually doing. We hear a lot of times that our attacks are too realistic. They make us dumb them down. We'll talk about that later. But basically, this is really one of the most politically charged tests that you'll ever do as a pen tester. We've been threatened to be sued. We've had our website taken down and domains transferred in the middle of the night. Companies just aren't ready for what is going to happen. And what we like to do is, and that's what this talk is really about, is yes, it's important to educate the users. Yes, it's important to test the users. But you've got 8 or 9 levels of defense from the time the user clicks the link until a shell tries to get out. And if you're not addressing those as part of your testing, all you're doing is making the users look stupid. And I don't know about you, but human nature is fickle. I don't know if you've been in an experience where you do something to one person, they laugh it off. You do the same thing to somebody else, and they freak out, and all of a sudden you're in front of a sexual harassment panel. Not that it's ever happened to me, but I've heard that stuff happens.
All right, so every presentation's got to have some statistics. These were actually taken from a Microsoft TechNet conference that was last year. Proofpoint, I got them cited. Proofpoint here at the bottom. I didn't steal this. Anyway, so Proofpoint did a survey type of thing of about 350 large organizations, and they just real quickly, basically about half of them said that they had been the victims of a phishing attack. And after that, 1/3 of those half that said they had been the victims of a phishing attack believed that there was an internal compromise, malware, data stolen, shells, Metasploits, whatever. So that's interesting. That's interesting because the companies that, I don't know what specific companies they were, they didn't call them out, but the companies that attend those big Microsoft TechNet conferences are pretty big. So anyway. So this is basically the anatomy of how a email attack works. I stole this too, but look, I cited it. Anyway, so basically step one is the targets. People are researched and pinpointed. This is the part we're going to focus on a whole lot during this talk because the point of a spearfishing attack is that you know who you're attacking. And we're going to show you some of the tools that we use to target down who people are, what business unit they work in. The reason for that is like specifically like I like to target HR departments. Why do I like to target HR departments? Because their entire job function is to sit at their computer and open PDFs and Word documents all day. That's what they're supposed to do. See, and that's why user awareness in that situation doesn't work, because you can't tell your HR department not to open a PDF file. Just doesn't work. So you've got to sandbox them. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But see, that's not their job is not security. Their job is to open PDFs. So you have to build your security program around that. Then, we deliver the fake email, we create a backdoor, we steal the data, we get it out of the network, blah, blah, blah. But that's the way an email attack works.
So our email harvesting, basically what you're looking at, and again, this isn't revolutionary. You want to go out and gather as many email addresses as you can for the target. So if you got a specific target, you're going to look at LinkedIn, you're going to look at Jigsaw, which we're going to show you a tool for. You're going to look at all these sites. You're going to try to gather as much information as you can about them, not just their email address, but LinkedIn's a great resource. You look at who they're hiring, and then you know what they've got in their environment, right? If they're hiring an Oracle guy, if they're hiring a semantic AV guy, and then you can trim your payloads back to based on your experiences in the past with that software, that technology. You can see or kind of determine what's going to get out, what's not going to get out. Are they looking for somebody for fire? Are they looking for somebody for blue coat? Things like that. You can change your payloads just knowing that.
There's nothing better than researching a company for one of these attacks and going on LinkedIn and seeing an advertisement for a McAfee expert,
Whatever that is. So basically, one thing that we like to do, we like to edit the list to remove anybody who's going to raise a red flag, right? We basically, once we've got our information, we go through, we look for anybody in IT, we look for anybody with security in their title, we look for anybody with network in their title, and we delete that, we take it out. We don't even plan on sending it to them unless the customer requests that we do it. Some of the tools that we use is GooHost or GooMail and those types of things, but this is our favorite. This is called Jigsaw. One of the guys who works for us wrote this, young kid. Basically, who's heard of Jigsaw? I know, who was here for Lee's talk? Yeah, so he went over the website. So our friend here at work, he wrote a tool, his name's Royce Davis, that'll go out and query all that for you and put it in a CSV file. So you can see right there, then and there, exactly who you're targeting.
And I just got a quick disclaimer. We randomly chose a target for this talk. It just happens to be Humana. We did not send any emails to Humana. We did not touch any of Humana's websites. We did not do anything at all to Humana. This is all passive. They just happen to be the unlucky victim of our talk.
So here's a dope thing. You run Jigsaw, you give it a search for Humana, and it's going to go out, it's going to query the website. And as you can see there, it found all those different sites, but we're going to pick the top one because as you can see, there's 1,863 employees that come up. So now we're going to go ahead and run it. We grab the ID, we pop the ID in, we tell it, give it a report and just a report name, and we hit enter. And this might take a little bit because it looks like we're on a 3G. If multiple domains come up, like if a company buys a company and they come up from the website, you can pick which one you want. And what this does is Jigsaw helps to build email addresses for you. So first letter, last name, the most common. First name dot last name. So based on which domain you pick, that's what the email templates are going to spit out as. So it's going through here, it's finding all these records, sales department, marketing, finance administration, and 90 for human resources. So it's breaking it all out for us. So we know who's in what department. Once we get to the CSV file, it'll show us their actual physical location in the United States. It gives you all kinds of good stuff here.
It always takes 10 times longer when you're standing up here.
Is Jigsaw on backtrack now?
Yes, it is. Although we're not 100% sure how much longer this is going to work, it takes advantage of a flaw in their API that they know about and they just don't care about, apparently. Yeah. So someday it may get fixed.
Recently they implemented cookies. I think that was the latest change, and he fixed that.
So theoretically, you're supposed to have to log into Jigsaw and you get 50 results for free, and then you got to subscribe. Like one of those deals or whatever. But
Yeah, I used to have to go to each page, copy the 50 out, paste it into a text file, and do some sed magic to get what I wanted out of it.
All right, so it should be coming up here. This is the last one.
Makes me worry about our shell.
Oh, well. Sorry, we do a lot of stuff live, so it doesn't work. We apologize in advance. All right, so that's kind of taken a while. It's a good thing I got a backup, I think. So anyway, here it is. So what it's going to look like is it comes out in a CSV file. The only thing you got to do is make sure that it's separated by tabs.
Yeah, it's not truly comma separated because it's tab separated. But you can see here, I mean, it gives the first name, last name, the full name, gives the department. You can do a quick filter on that, like I said, and filter for the IT, delete all those people. It gives a position for you.
See, so like here we can filter by group. Like, so if we wanted to remove all the IT people, because theoretically they would be able to spot a phishing email faster than some of the other people. So a lot of times we just remove them from the list. That's all theoretical, of course. And then if you look over here, it basically gives you emails.
Yeah. So it's built some emails for you. So that's what we copy and paste out, and that's what we end up sending our attack to.
And so just so you see it really works, this is probably done by now. So see, he wrote 1,851 records to Humana CSV. So it does work. I just didn't want to wait for it.
Another cool thing about Jigsaw is they do constantly have where they check on the contact itself to make sure that it's still a legit contact. So most of them you'll see that they're legit right from the get-go, and they're still good. So here's, I guess, what we'd call step 1.5 in that arrow. This is something we like to do. We started doing this. Let me see if I can't work this little red thing here. I don't know if you can see this. So the first thing we do is we take that list of 1,800 names, and I just send a fake email out from a Gmail account, Jim Smith Gmail, and Sylvia's my mom's name, so it's my mom's 60th birthday, Jim Smith, and I basically just say, hey, howdy, friends and family, having a party, or whatever the fake story is, and I send it out. The cool thing is you're able to filter your list down. You see these mail delivery. So out of those 1,800, we start filtering that down. But what's even cooler, and we'll show you in our email, is you start to get the out-of-office replies that say, hey, I'm out of town, but contact these 5 other people. And then you can put those five other people in there. Or you get their addresses, their titles. You get all types of extra information that all leads to more trust in your final email, so it looks more legit. And one of the coolest things we got was the actual legal footers, right? That this message is, intended only for the recipient. And if they're looking at something and it has that footer in there and it's the same language they're used to seeing, again, it adds another layer of trust to it.
All right, so once you get your email list together, the next thing we like to do is to create the scenario, right? So the first thing we want to do is register a real domain with real webmail. The reason being is that there's all kinds of scripts and stuff out there that, like send email and all kinds of fake email sender scripts, but basically every single email appliance has got smarter than that, right? Nobody's going to allow an email from root through the door or something like that, right? So what we like to do, what we figured out was the main thing that wasn't being checked was reverse DNS. So if reverse DNS isn't set up on the SMTP server, the appliance will drop it. So what we figured out was that we could register a domain, and that's not new. I mean, the phishers are doing that. They have a domain with some variation of your name or whatever, like 2 I's or whatever. But what we didn't see them doing was actually using a webmail address with it. So GoDaddy actually gives you 1 free webmail address with each domain. So that's pretty cool.
Yay, GoDaddy.
So we like GoDaddy. We'll show you why. So we like to do, for our domain, and you could do whatever, but we like to do company name and then -portal. And then what we do is we create a subdomain and call it secure. So it's secure.companyname-portal. It's legit, sounds good, and it may sound stupid, but it works every time. By the way, we have a 100% success rate with this. I mean, we've probably done 100 of these in the past couple of years. So the next thing we do is we like to create our scenario. How are we going to fish the people, right? So our favorite one is to target open enrollment, 401k, health benefits, that kind of thing. Unfortunately, this one never ever gets approved by our clients. Apparently, you're not supposed to mess around with people's 401ks. They take it all seriously and stuff. So we never get that approved. An old one we used to do was the work from home project, right? We'd send out an email and we'd say, hey, we're starting a new pilot program. We're going to select 50 people to work from home every other Friday. Please don't forward this to your friends, all that kind of stuff. And just log into this portal and register. And that worked for a long time. We have some customers that are not ready for this type of engagement. They want to do a phishing attack, but they're not ready for a serious phish. So we started providing the OWA upgrade, which is sort of a really simple one. There was a big, giant phish on the internet about 2 years ago with OWA 2010 upgrade. So we've replicated that for companies with not a very mature security model so that they can start out small. Because like we said, we're not trying to embarrass users. We're trying to figure out if a user clicks the link, is there any defenses between the time they click that link and the time the reverse shell goes out the network? And then our favorite one is the security report, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Every company in the world has security. It works everywhere. We'll show you the email, but we basically send out a quick email that says, we just had a security audit. Some people weren't following the protocols and got caught. Security's your responsibility, and blah, blah, blah. It's pretty good, and it works almost every time. So once you get your scenario built, right, you got to create an email. These are my 5 steps basically to creating a perfect email. Number 1, the subject is the most important part, right? That's what comes up in your little Outlook thing. If the subject isn't catchy, you're never going to open the email, right? So the subject is the most important part. It has to be easy to read, it can't be like somebody with a PhD wrote it. You can't be using, and it just has to, it has to flow like a regular email. And to build on that, it has to look legitimate, right? No misspellings, no grammar, I don't know about you all, but when I send out an email to everybody in my company, I spell check it like 8 times, have my mom read it, check it over again, because I don't want to look like an idiot sending an email out to, so when an email comes, as an internal company bulletin, it should be legit. It shouldn't be misspelled. You have to give the users a reason to click, right? Because we want them to click on the link, right? The days of email bombs and shit like that just going off automatically are over. We got to actually entice our users into taking some sort of action to execute our payload. And the last is make it fit the organization, For example, on the slide before, I talked about that 401k talk, or open enrollment or health benefits. Like, if I knew an organization was 80% part-time employees, I would not send them a phishing email about insurance because we all know that part-time employees don't get insurance. So that type of phishing email would not fit that organization. So you have to make sure that it fits. All right, so Eric's going to talk about our phishing email.
So this is, like Martin was saying, this is our standard. We like it. We think it's good. We do get called on it a few times for it being too realistic. We got it?
I might have lost the internet. Okay. Hold on. Oh, here we go. Okay. You actually got to click the right thing.
Okay. So here's as we were talking about earlier, we bought a domain, Humana-portal. Again, Humana was not harmed in any way during the making of this presentation. We append a subdomain of secure, so the people see secure and Humana, so they see secure in their company name in the same line. We always end up sending it from information security and assurance. And if you look up here, InfoSec is the name, humanaportal.com, that's wrong, right? It should come from Humana, but that doesn't matter. And basically what it says, basically it's from the Office of Information Security and Assurance, and as Martin was saying, it basically says that information security is an integral part of the company. It's up to you guys to make sure that you're doing the right things. That some of the employees and contractors did not adhere to the guidelines set forth by the department. And then down here in this paragraph, we entice them to say, people are going to try to, right here it says, an attacker may try to exploit your trust. So that's exactly what we're doing with this email. But as you can see, the layout looks professional, looks like something that you guys would get. Down here, it's from Information Security and Assurance. That's the legit address. That's also the legit phone number. I've also sometimes found like help desk extensions or something in there that you know is coming from an internal source. You can throw in there to make it look legitimate, or we'll take that 5 off and make it 5,000 instead of 5,005. It takes 30 seconds on Google to find a logo. There's the Humana, and then here's the email footer, right? The legal information. So all these little things add up to what a user would expect to see when they get an internal email, with the exception of the Humana portal at the top. And then also, one other thing we do is we do not obfuscate the link. So the link that's in here, if they hover over it, it goes to secure.humanaportal.com, because a lot of users are taught, well, hover over the link and see where it really goes. So that's a small thing, but it's another layer of trust of, okay, it looks legit, it is going to the right place, it's going to where it says it is, so perhaps this is something that I should check out.
All right, so just so nobody thinks we're picking on Humana, we're going to shoot this email. You'll see I'm sending this to my own email account at accuvant.com, right? So keep that in mind. So we're going to shoot that off to ourselves. There we go. All right. Did I miss one?
You go to the desktop.
No, that's right. Okay. So the next thing you got to do is you got to choose the attack vector, right? This is how the payload or whatever it is that you're going to have the users do. Who here has heard of SET, the social engineering toolkit? Awesome. Awesome tool. We actually stole some code out of that for this. And Dave Kennedy actually, I'll show you what he gave us a little bit later. But so basically, there's tons of different attack vectors. Like I was talking about, infected PDF files, VB macros, Word and Excel documents. Everybody likes to open those, no problem. Credential harvesting is a big one. The times we use credential harvesting, and this is where your research comes in handy. If you start looking at all the domains that a website uses and they have a VPN authentication that doesn't use two-factor, then really all I need is some credentials. I don't even got to worry about all this other stuff. I just need a set of credentials so I can log into that VPN and it's game over.
How many people have OWA external without two-factor auth? Anybody want to admit that? Right.
No.
So basically,
So one person.
Credential harvesting works. You get in there. One thing we like to do is we like to re-forward the phishing email from the person that we phished out to other people. We can also scrape then the global address book and send it out to additional folks.
Because once we have an OWA login, we just log into their OWA account, we take our phishing email and we forward it to everybody in the dude's address book, and then now it's really come from the legit domain, right? Hey, did you guys see this? And anyway, so some other things we like to use is the good old-fashioned malicious EXE. Unfortunately, it still works. And then our very favorite is the Java applet, which I'm sure if you're familiar with SET or you know Dave Kennedy, you know the Java applet is his baby. That's our favorite because it basically can't be fixed. And so we'll show a couple of those things here in a minute. So, was this yours or mine?
Go for it.
Oh. All right, anyway, so the next thing you want to do is create the website, right? And this may seem like a lot of work, but like if you're, organizations have so many defenses up. We got firewalls and IDSs and blue coats and riverbeds and all kinds of stuff. So breaking into the external perimeter has become harder and harder. I just don't see Telnet on the outside all that much anymore. So I can spend a week, whittling away at these defenses, trying to find a 0-day, fuzzing FTP servers, all that kind of stuff. Or I can just shoot them an email and get right in, So this stuff is important. So creating the website, we like to clone one of their portal pages. Like if you have a VPN login page, something like that. We like to search Google for the logo images, obviously. One little touch we like to do is make sure we get the organization's favicon and put that on the website. We steal language from their real websites, so it sounds legit. The best thing we like to do is GoDaddy is so awesome, it lets you change the Whois info to whatever you want. It's pretty cool. And then obviously we want to add our evil code to the website. So if you want to look over here, here's our website. It's a little off center because of the resolution, but it's legit for real, we promise.
So again, what we have up here, we see securehumanaportal.com. It doesn't have a lock, but it says secure, so it must be. And then just for good measure, we put a little lock down here so the employees know they're logging into a secured area. Again, that took like 30 seconds on Google to find that. The word secure portal sounds great. We've got our little credential harvesting. Over here, we've actually stole some language saying basically that the information contained within is confidential and is the intellectual property of, at this point, Humana Incorporated and its affiliates. It says, of course, that the systems are monitored and regularly updated and reviewed, and that you shouldn't introduce any malicious code or do any tampering of any kind. So right there, and it's in red, so everybody knows it's real. And it basically just says, please log in. And at this point, are we going to talk about the attacks?
Yeah. Well, you got to do that. So we also have another thing that we do, just a little bitty trick, is we actually monitor the email account. After we send out the phishing emails, we sit there and monitor it because we get emails back. Like, hey, I can't log into the site.
Yeah, what credentials should I be using to log into this site? What's going on? Can you help me? So we like to send them this link.
Right, trouble logging in.
Trouble logging in.
I don't know if y'all can see that, but you just hit the trouble logging in. We got a help desk live chat.
Yeah.
You just got to
You just click this exe right here.
Just got to run this help desk exe down here, and it'll set you right up so that we can help you log in to into the site so that you can get the report. Right?
But we're polite because you see, we say thank you.
That's right. So they do.
Yes. Yeah, we actually monitor the Apache logs as well, and we actually see calls for the other pages associated with it.
The other thing that we do is a lot of times, it's just like every little detail helps when you're doing this. So like a lot of times, Dave's tool, for example, set, now it has the ability to choose where it's going to redirect to, but in the beginning it would just redirect to the original site. So what we did was we made something a little bit different. So every time you log in, there's excessive requests. We're sorry, you got to try later, right? See, because everybody got this email in the company, so everybody's trying to download the report.
It's so important that everybody's trying to get there. And then, again, we've got our, hey, live chat with the help desk. You might as well click that link and go there.
That's right. It's just little bitty details, you know? So people see this, and instead of it just not working or going to a 404 page or something, they're like, oh, excessive requests, you know? I see these all the time on the internet.
Yeah. And I mean, it looks legit. It follows the same template. We got our favicon. I mean, everything is exactly what they would expect to see. We've even got a little copyright notice down here at the bottom. I know you can't see it.
It's legit.
It's legit. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, here you go.
So this is what Martin was talking about. This is the dope part. So a lot of things, you know, we do, again, we're looking for that extra layer of trust. So one of the things GoDaddy lets you do is change the Whois information. Doesn't matter who you are. As long as you check those two boxes, they will change it to whatever you want to change it to. So what we did was we changed our organization to Humana Incorporated. We looked at their Whois information and we mimicked it, address, domain admin. The only thing that I ever change is down here and ask for an email entry. It's usually like domain admin or something like that. I just put an S on the end, so it's domain admins. No one notices the difference. Because we do get some quote-unquote smart people who think they're going to outwit us by looking at the Whois information. So if you look at our Whois information here, the main difference will be basically that, this is legit. So
we're good.
This is ours, right? Humana Incorporated. The only main thing is GoDaddy.com showing up here. If we're feeling extra malicious, we'll look at the Whois information and see where they're registering their domain, and we'll register our domain there as well. So then it really looks legit. So yeah, if we were to pull up Humana, it would mimic this completely except for the name servers and the registered through.
So the reason we put this in there is we talk to a lot of IDS guys, and a lot of them, what they do is they create IDS rules based on the places that the bad guys registered the domains at, right? Because, you know, like everybody from Turkish Gang XYZ registers all their malicious domains from such and such, so they IDS on that registrar. So since it's a cat and mouse game, we're always trying to beat those guys. We just figured out how to change the information.
And the cool thing is when you change the Whois information, it doesn't email the people that you're changing it to. It just emails you to let you know that, hey, it's been changed. So.
And nobody's going to block GoDaddy. That would be weak. All right, so the next thing you want to do is choose the payload. I'm going to try to hurry up. I'm sure everybody here has heard of Metasploit. We like to use Metasploit because it's easy. All the payloads are there. Nobody wants to reinvent the wheel. The main things you got to look at is reverse connection, right? Most organizations have some type of proxy, blue coat, egress filtering of some kind So TCP is usually not an option unless you have some type of insider information. HTTP and HTTPS is always an option, right? Very few companies I go to actually do binary packet inspection where they can tell the difference over HTTPS. Basically, because it's binary, everything, unless you're doing binary packet inspection, everything looks like it's encrypted. So the one that we usually use. The other reason we love that one is that HTTP and HTTPS payloads actually pull the user's proxy information out of the profile, and they use that to tunnel back out of the system. So if there's a proxy password or whatever, it just pulls that information out of the Windows profile. If you know your target is doing binary packet inspection and you can't get out over SSL, the last resort you have is the reverse TCP all ports connection, which is a little bit harder to set up because your listener, you have to set up your IP tables rules so every single port forwards to your listening port. But basically what it does is you give reverse TCP all ports a starting port, and it starts on that port and it tries every single one until it gets out. And we had to use this a few weeks ago, and we got out on like port 46,761 or something like that. Never even heard of, but just some idiot forgot to close that port.
And different systems had different ports, but they were all like a high number, like 22,000, 44,000.
And then the biggest thing, defeating AV, right? We all know the encoders in Metasploit don't work too good. They weren't really designed to defeat AV, so these become kind of the tricks of the trade. You run into, custom packers, binary obfuscation. What we like to do is we like to digitally sign all of our binaries and our Java applet, which we'll show you. So it costs like a couple $100 to register an LLC. So it's really no big deal to register an LLC. Contact GoDaddy and get some code signing certificates, and you can code sign all your binaries so they don't say, "Are you sure?" when you run them. And you can also code sign the Java applet, which we're going to show you.
Yeah, it was $199, 3 days, and one phone call with GoDaddy before I had a code signing certificate for Accuvant.
And then the very last thing is post-exploitation, right? What are we going to do once we get in the environment? This is probably the most important part, but it doesn't have anything to do with the actual phishing, so I'm going to skip over it. But know what you're looking for, because once you get a shell into an organization from a phish, you don't have a whole lot of time. You got to have a plan of attack, and you got to know what you're looking for. Going after the domain admin account is usually not the best thing to do. Going after the databases is usually the best thing to do, because I've given a lot of presentations to a lot of CEOs, and they could care less that I got domain admin. But if I show them the secret formula that runs their entire company, 60% of their revenue, where I pulled it out of the database because it was using NTLM authentication, that makes an impact.
And why go for DA when you could just pull the hashes out or domain cache credentials and use legit ones?
All right, so now hopefully this is going to work. We're going to put it all together. So you'll remember we were at our GoDaddy and we sent our email, right? So I'm going to go right over here. So here's my email. And I just want to show everyone, this is my Accuvant corporate VM, right? It's all patched and up to date.
We got Windows 7 Service Pack 1. Look,
That's
McAfee
right.
status says it's A-OK.
In addition to
We got
McAfee,
some big fix.
I got Big Fix.
It's also got the latest Java, I think we updated.
Yeah,
We
updated Java.
everything.
It's fully updated,
Fully
right?
patched.
All right, so here's my email.
That's the exact
Comes
same one
in.
we sent.
I
There's
mean,
a link for you.
I know no one in here is going to admit it, but it looks legit to me. I'd click on this.
Anybody think that looks legitimate?
And see, when you click on the link, this is what Eric was talking about. Like, we're conditioned to hover over a link and make sure it's going to the right place, right? And so if it looks different, we automatically know, oh, this is a phishing email. But what we found over the years is it doesn't really matter what the link is, as long as it goes to the place that it says it's going to go,
As long as
people
it
will
matches.
click on it.
As long as it matches, that's all that matters.
So we're hoping this will all work.
All right, so he's launching it now.
And I'm on my MiFi, so it's usually quite a bit faster than this, but so bear with us.
Yeah, it's going to take a while. So right now what it's doing is it's loading the Java applet. We've got several attacks on this. Again, this is the exact same website we showed you before, but this has the Java applet attack. It's also got the credential harvesting and the other malware that we discussed. So it's,
Like I said, it would be a lot faster.
it's thinking about it.
It's thinking about it.
Billy can help you with optimization on that.
There we go.
There we go.
All right, so here, this is awesome. So I know you guys can't see this, but this is a legit signed Java applet. This box is checked, and it's checked by default because it's legitimate.
And this is IE9, by the way.
IE9. The name says Java Security Verified, and it's safe, right? So since it says it's safe, it's definitely safe. It's a verified publisher, and it's coming from secure.humanaportal.com, so we might as well run it.
Well, so, and then,
I mean, you guys might not click on it, but think about all the people in your office that would see that and be all over it.
so we just do, everybody's familiar with the Metasploit RC file, or if you're not, this is what Lee was talking about a little bit earlier. I know there were some questions, but
Just ignore that.
I'm just going to run it because it takes a second to load. So basically, you can set all your options.
The dope thing about this is if you use SMB exec, it'll automatically create a binary and an RC file for you based on what you picked. It'll also do code obfuscation that'll bypass most antivirus. The one thing that we hate is it doesn't pass it doesn't pass Microsoft Security Essentials. And we hate to give Microsoft any credit, but their AV catches all of our shells. So we have other ways around that.
Also, just while that's loading, I just want to show real quick. Remember how we told you, oh, whoops. I guess you actually got to type the commands right. So remember how we showed you that our McAfee status was A-OK, and we built this binary with about 30 lines of bash here that's going to bypass this AV. This is nothing fancy. You'll notice that we just use a little MSF payload, MSF encode, a little bit of sed, pull out the C, we remove some bad characters, we do some character randomization, and come back down here and we rebuild the binary with Ming GCC. And that's basically all we did to this payload. We didn't use any fancy packers from the elite hackers in China. We didn't use anything. I mean, it's literally about 30 lines of code. And this is available in our SMB exec tool. It actually does all this. There's nothing fancy. We stole most of the code, just put it together, and made it work for this situation.
And it randomizes every time you run it, so it's a different SHA-1, different signature every single time.
All right, so we got our listener going, except why can't we see it? Well, anyway, it's going, we promise. So this is not new. Dave has done this 1,000 times, but basically you just click run on the applet. The trick here is having it signed, right? The signing is the key part of the whole thing.
Yeah, like Martin was saying, IE9, the new Firefox, if you don't have a signed applet, or a signed binary, and you download it from the internet, it asks the user like 3 different times. It doesn't give the option to really run it anymore, like they used to be able to. They actually have to open up their downloads folder and run it. But if it's signed, it gets the green check mark and it's good to go.
Well,
What the heck? There we go. Keep hitting enter.
anyway, there's our shell.
Yay, shell.
And that's, once again, nothing new. That's just what happens. And just in case the users don't do that, we obviously log these credentials. And then on top of that, we have the help desk exe that will help them log in case they can't.
And we have the Java applet set too. If they click cancel, it waits 7 seconds, so it does give them a chance to log in with their credentials, and then repeats and comes back up again. So we set the repeater to 7 seconds instead of 2 seconds.
All right, so this may seem simple, but these are some things you should consider when you're looking at an email, right? Email and attachments. Do you know the sender? Can the information being asked for be used to attack you and your company? Is the link suspicious or raising any flags? Well, our link wasn't really suspicious except for it wasn't correct. IT or security will never ask you an associate for your password. Now, these are the elementary bases of user education. We are definitely not saying that user education is not necessary, but it can only go so far. I mean, if you got a company with 10,000 people, somebody is going to click the link. I don't care if you make them sit in a week's worth of social engineering classes.
Yeah, you could think we had 1,800 in that one list. You know at least one person's going to click it.
And so what we like to stress and talk about on this and finish up with is how do we limit exposure from this type of attack, right? So unfortunately, as much as we all hate these products, patching them works, updating them works, I mean, anybody that knows about the life cycle of a 0-day, some people believe in responsible disclosure. So when there's a Java 0-day, chances are that Java was notified like 45 days ago or 6 months ago. Not always, but for the most part, or especially the day it comes out. I mean, like, these companies have gigantic security teams that are on top of this stuff. So patching your stuff is important. You know, we go in a lot of companies where they have some 30-day Microsoft patching cycle or something like that. I mean, like, do you really want a Java 0 day on your network for 29 days just because you don't want to do some extra work? You know, unfortunately, that's not going to work. So patching your stuff is our number one defense.
So as we were talking about limiting exposure, you can see down there at the bottom we put user awareness. Again, we're stressing user awareness is extremely important. We're not saying don't do it. We're saying keep doing it. But what we're also talking about is all the layers that happen from the moment that the user clicks the link. When you run these types of tests that includes all the malware and the different things that we put into these spearfishing attacks, you're looking at the user, you're looking at the incident response. Let's say they do call the help desk. How long does it take for the help desk to notify the SOC and for that to take place before anything gets DNS, any of the DNS gets black holed or anything like that? You know, what happens if they do run the binary? Do you have a host-based IPS? Does that pick it up? Yes or no? Does a network IDS IPS pick it up? Does egress filtering pick it up? You know, there's all these different steps that you're testing by doing this type of spearfishing. If you're just focusing on, and our salespeople do this, they sell these spearfishing campaigns as a user awareness tool. Yes, it's important, but you can test so much more. So if you're spending your money on all these different places, you want to make sure that you're spending it in the right place. I mean, you're spending millions of dollars on blinky lights. Let's make sure the blinky lights work.
And just a side note, do not get the pen test company that sold you the blinky lights to come pen test your blinky lights. You know, get another company to do it.
Yeah, and so some of the things we talk about too is like standardize your antivirus, because sometimes it works. You know, we had one place where they had most of it was McAfee or Symantec, and the rest of it was Forefront. Forefront blocked everything, but the McAfee stuff and Symantec stuff all got through. You know, make sure that there's two-factor authentication anywhere external that you have your footprint. And again, user awareness is important. Sorry, these are all new pictures for me. Again, to sum it all up, user awareness should not be the goal of a social engineering test. A spearfishing social engineering test should test the entire organization's defenses, just like an attacker is going to test your defenses. It should encompass everything that you have, everything that you spent money on, because you want to make sure that you're budgeting money in the right place. If something works, that's great. Where it didn't work, that's where you got to focus your money on now. Maybe you're training, different things. Just make sure that what you're doing is making sense to the organization. You don't want to spend $1 million on something.
When we do this type of testing, we, you know, afterwards, we can get with a customer and we can say, okay, what happened? So-and-so clicked the link and they're in this environment and it went through this and this and this and this and this. And we can tell you exactly where the breakdown was, you know? And so instead of buying some new product, you can actually call whatever vendor supplied you the product where the breakdown is and say, hey, this isn't working. My pen testers were able to bypass it with 30 lines of bash. Either fix it or I'm going to get a new vendor, you know?
It all depends on your risk appetite.
Oh, God. He swore he was going to work that stupid term in this talk. Anyway, and another thing is we like to network segmentation, right? This is the main thing that you can do in your organization to prevent these type of attacks. And it's tedious and nobody likes to do it. But if you think about it from a logical perspective, you can start to segment your organization. Like, let me go back to, remember when I was talking about the HR department? They love to open up PDFs and Word documents and all that stuff. Well, think about it in reverse. What does my HR department actually do? Like, I'm the network admin. What does my HR department actually do? They get email, they authenticate to Active Directory, they look at Facebook, and they probably have some internal web application where they input the data from people's applications so they're in some type of pool, right? That's like 5 things. It should be no problem at all for me to completely ACL off that environment and only let those people out to those particular places in my network. And on top of that, if I've only got, 5 or 6 egress points coming out of the HR department, then I can start to implement some binary packet inspection and some other stuff on that, and every business unit, if you take some time and think about it, can be segmented off that way in some way. And
for God's sake, segment your freaking dev environment. I'm so sick of going into internal Networks, I mean, that's the first place we're going to go after, and that's the first place they're going to go after. They're going to look for those domain creds, and they're going to look for all the boxes that have the exploits, and they're going to hack all the things. So one other thing that wanted to mention was, as pen testers, we recommend that you push for this level of testing if you're going to do social engineering. But I think I forgot to mention, we talked about it being political. Get buy-in as far up the chain as you can. If you are responsible for doing this pen test, educate your customer as to all the things that are going to go wrong, but that it's still super important. If you're in charge of hiring this type of testing, again, make sure you get buy-in as high up as you can, because I'm sure that there's people who have possibly been fired or definitely yelled at, chewed out. So to protect yourself, this is important, but make sure you've got buy-in. If you don't have buy-in, don't go outside of what they're expecting you to do.
If we didn't have a legal department to back us, we'd be broke right now.
There's a question back there.
What if your customer just doesn't give a shit?
Wow.
What do you mean doesn't give a shit?
Well,
Like doesn't care?
you've got all these people that you're paying a lot of money to do pilot functions. What's the best way to show, like, a CEO of a multi-billion-dollar corporation, hey, your shit's vulnerable, you're gonna get fired?
I mean, that's basically, that falls on the reporting process and client communication, right? I mean, once I do the pen test, I'll give you a report and I'll tell you where the breakdown was, whether it's internal, social, whatever. And then when you present that to whoever you're presenting it to, you say, you know, this is the group that was responsible for this. These are the ways that you can fix it. And unfortunately, after that, it's up to them to get it fixed. That's one reason why it's important to have to not use the same pen test vendor every time, but have the same vendor come in 2 or 3 years in a row. We like to advocate switching every 2 years. That way, if we come in and there's a bunch of stuff broken and we give you a big long report and it all needs to be fixed, and we come in a year later, and obviously we're going to take that last report and start there. And if that stuff's not fixed, then you can point out, hey, it's been a year and these database guys haven't turned off NTLM authentication yet, so this is a problem.
It's difficult too when you walk in someplace that already has an agenda. Like they don't think pen testing really means anything, or they don't really know what pen testing really is, or they just want their checkbox for PCI. Like we deal with that a lot. And the only thing you could really do, like Martin said, you go out, you do your best, you present it to them, but in the end, we're consultants. So we provide our findings, and if they don't give a shit, then we can't give a shit either. We've done our job, we've done our due diligence, we've educated them the best we can. Any other questions? Yes.
So, were you saying that you had like lawsuits brought against you for actually executing this, even though it was signed off by the customer?
We can neither
Yeah.
confirm nor deny.
I can sort of generally. So we had a.
Take that one.
I'll get us in
I was the
trouble.
one who got the-
So basically what happened in that situation was it was a fairly big company. And so what happens a lot of times is, and this is what Eric was talking about for buy-in, is you might have the IT company that hired you to do this pen test, right? And so generally we like to send them the list and say, hey, take anybody off this list that you don't want to get the email, or CEOs, that kind of thing. Because the thing is that the IT department might be buying the pen test, but generally there's a whole lot more people important than the IT department. Even the CSO, there's usually a lot more people above that. So what happened in that particular situation was we had been hired by the risk and audit in the IT department to do this phish, and we had tried to vet the list as best we could and remove anybody. But that Jigsaw thing's not perfect, you know what I mean? And there's other ways to get email addresses. So what happened was, somebody that worked at that company that did not have a prominent title. He wasn't like a CEO, but he had been at the company for 17 or 18 years, and he basically knew everybody, and he was well standing in the company.
The old office chief.
Was one of the people that got phished. And so he got mad. And fell for it. And because of his seniority at the company, not necessarily his title, he was more important than even the CSO of the security department. And so they didn't care that we had, 20 shells on their network. All they cared about was that we stole their logo and had misrepresented it on the internet. And so they threatened to sue us for copy infringement. They made us transfer the domain over to them, all this type of stuff. And never mind that we were able to get shells outside of a network that's supposed to be, secure and deals with lots of money.
They weren't
So-
ready for the purple team smash.
That's kind of why Eric was talking about get this buy-in up as high as you can. You know, as the more people up the chain that know you're actually going to do this, the better off you are. Because once again, like we said, we're not out to. It doesn't matter sometimes if a lot of people up high know because we know that user education, you know, has its place, and we should educate our users, and we should, you know, make them do some kind of training. But it's low on the totem pole, right? This is testing all that other stuff. You know, it's a perfect way after you spend, you know, $1 million in devices every year and set them all up and hope to God that every consultant configured them properly, which hardly ever happens, you know, because you got a different device from a different company with a different consultant, and they're all setting them up, and they're competitors. They don't want to work with each other. They don't want to make sure that everything, you know, then it falls on this small IT staff at, you know, company to make all this stuff work, and stuff slips through the cracks. So that's what we like to help come in and make sure that your gear is working. A lot of pen testers come in and say, "Hey, whitelist me from everything so I can test for vulnerabilities." We do not do that because it's not realistic. We say keep every single defense you have in place, even if you got port limiting or whatever. We'll figure out a way around it.
Yeah, we use no internal information that we've gained for any of our attacks. So none of the emails, anything like that. We won't use it unless we can find it externally, completely separate from the communications, because we want it to be as real world as possible. This is what can really be found and be done against you based on your external filter.
And the problem is people get embarrassed, right? And they're embarrassed, they got phished, you know, they read about all this phishing in the mail. Now they think they've compromised their organization, and, you know, like, and so of course they're gonna react strongly, you know? And so that's all that happened in that situation. And it's happened in quite a few times to us. And so once again, it's important that you get with your legal team at your company to do this type of stuff to make sure that you're protected.
I think we're done.
No, I've got a question.
Oh, okay.
I had a question. Wait. Okay, how do you deal with HR being squiggly? Certainly in an organization I've worked for, at some point in time, the HR department is, you're going to lie to our employees. And then they also have the issue of if an employee gets socially engineered legitimately by someone who is, you know, an adversary, then there may be disciplinary action up to and including termination. If we're doing that as the company and doing that to employees, how do you unskeeve HR?
We don't include in any of our reports or any of our communications, at least I don't think you do either, we don't include any names. They don't know who it was that got phished. They don't know who it was that fell for it. They just know XYZ amount of people. They know how many emails got sent out, how many people responded, how many shells we got, that type of thing. But we never give away that this person was phished. And a lot of times what we tell, you know, if they want to know, what we do is we tell them, just send out you know, to half the company, send out a password change GPO just in the background, so, you know, add a ban type of thing, so people end up changing their password. But we don't want to get anybody in trouble. That's not the point of what we're doing. But as far as HR is concerned, goes back to the buy-in thing. You know, we do our best to protect the users that we do, because we feel bad. We do feel bad for them, except there's one that we're not going to feel bad for. Pretty soon.
But and the thing is this is another a reason you need to have like a lot of conversations with the people orchestrating this type of test, so you can say what can happen, and I always, when I talk to clients, fear for me is not a motivating factor, and it never has been. So I like to talk to clients about, you know, firing people just makes people fearful, and it has never made people do the right thing. You know, there's all kinds of other ways that you can motivate people. You can do, you know, gift card programs for reporting, you know, phishing emails or whatever. You know what I mean? Or like. We even had one company that wanted to institute a program where they said once a year they were going to do security awareness training and have us do a presentation like this and show everybody, and they were going to give the people like the day off work to come to like a 3-hour presentation or something like that, something that incentivized the people.
And that's another reason why we're doing this talk, because it's not the user's fault. It's not always the user's fault. We're putting the onus on the people who are responsible for keeping that network together and keeping it secure. And we think that's more important, quote, more important than the user education, or equally as important.
So in that case, then the argument is somebody says, dampen it down because, it's going to be really easy with us. Really, if we're not actually testing the users, we're testing the infrastructure, we should make it as damn hard as possible.
Well, but sometimes when you get started in something like this, you want to start out with user. If your company's never had any type of user education, so like I was talking about the OWA one, we had a company, they'd been in business 20 or something years, they'd never had a pen test, they had like a 2 or 3 person security team, and they had never done any type of user education. So what we did was we started out with a fish with the OWA upgrade. We misspelled some words on the website, we misspelled a few words in the email. We tried to make it a little bit easier for them to get started, because then what you can do is, once you have the results from our report, you can put that stuff up on the screen and people have seen that. Oh, I saw that, But you definitely don't want to, start firing people for this type of thing, because it's not going to work. It's not going to make the other people not click the link. The main basis of what we're talking about is it's the securities department. If I was on the defensive side and I worked in an organization, I would treat every single person in my organization like they were going to click the link. And I would figure out every other single thing that I could do to mitigate the exposure when they click the link, because somebody's going to do it.
That's our point. I think we're done. Thank you guys very much. Any other questions? After we'll be happy to answer them once we
One
get
more.
on stage.
Eric, do you have a designated fanboy for the conference?
No.
Oh, that's right. I'm supposed to get naked, right? We were doing the full Monty.
Whoa, I'm out of here. Hold on. Oh, shit.
Thanks again.